pasando este. Espera que ponga. Está encendido. ¿Quieres?
No tienen que lanzar audio desde ahí, ¿verdad? Porque creo que eso sí que no está como
¿Probado?
contemplado, claro.
Vale. Pablo, ¿los vídeos tienen audio? Porque eso no lo hemos probado.
Claro.
Bueno,
Yo creo que no es muy importante el vídeo de los vídeos.
vale. Mira, sigue llegando. Me han dicho que creen que no es muy importante el audio de los vídeos.
Vale, porque es que creo
Si
que
no,
no...
si no, yo lo anuncio.
Es que no lo tenemos metido...
O sea, no sonaría en la sala, ¿no? Y sí por el streaming. Tampoco.
No, porque no está metido a la
Claro,
mesa.
claro. Vale, vale.
¿Cuántas sillas? ¿Cuántas sillas?
¿Comienzo? ¿Comienzo? ¿Qué tal? Bienvenidos, bienvenidas a la Universidad Carlos III de Madrid. Esta tarde vamos a hacer la presentación del proyecto europeo Premier. Tenemos al equipo internacional de artistas, los partners del proyecto, que van a ir haciendo una presentación de las distintas tecnologías y proyectos que han ido desarrollando con estas tecnologías. Es un proyecto que, como os van a contar, yo no os voy a introducir demasiado, pero que trata un poco de la interacción entre las artes escénicas y los desarrollos tecnológicos de la realidad extendida, la inteligencia artificial, y han estado trabajando con bailarines, que también vamos a poder ver una demostración de una Sonification Battle. El evento va a ser un poco bilingüe, algunos de ellos van a intervenir en inglés y otros lo harán en castellano. Y bueno, esto lo enmarcamos también dentro de la colaboración desde la plataforma de arte, ciencia y tecnología de la universidad con la red estatal ACTS, que está poniéndose en marcha en estos meses y es bueno, pues fruto un poco de generar este espacio de red y colaboración entre distintas instituciones y una apertura de la universidad y de la academia a trabajar con agentes del mundo artístico y cultural, como es el Instituto Stokos, por ejemplo, que forma parte de este proyecto europeo y al que tenemos pues mucha cercanía y cariño. Doy ya la palabra, gracias por la paciencia, que hemos empezado un minutito tarde porque hemos tenido un pequeño problema técnico, pero bueno, el formato pretendíamos que fuese un poquito meet and greet, que podáis hacer preguntas, conocer a los partners, satisfacer vuestras curiosidades, o sea que en cualquier momento que necesitéis, pues también podréis participar de la conversación. Muchas gracias a todas.
Muchas gracias, Alfredo. Es un placer estar aquí, un maestro de ceremonias como Alfredo Miralles, en una universidad, la Carlos III, tan dinámica y tan abierta a la investigación y a la integración de los desarrollos artísticos en el currículo de los estudiantes. Y bueno, precisamente presentamos un proyecto, es un proyecto financiado por la Comisión Europea dentro del programa Horizon. Y es un proyecto que mezcla, que combina un saber técnico, un desarrollo técnico y un desarrollo artístico. Somos unos 12 socios de Holanda, Francia, Portugal, España, creo que me estoy olvidando, por supuesto Grecia y Chipre. Y digamos que hay socios técnicos, technical partners, y socios artísticos, artistic partners, ¿no? Entonces, estamos desarrollando una serie de tecnologías para acompañar el ciclo de vida completo de una obra escénica. Unas tecnologías que sirven para documentar, para ensayar remotamente, para, digamos, apoyar la creación en escena y para documentar finalmente el proceso de creación. Entonces, bueno, vamos a presentar lo que nosotros llamamos los use cases, es decir, cada uno de los casos de estudio que tiene este proyecto, que están centrados en la documentación, en el desarrollo de tecnologías basadas en inteligencia artificial y realidad expandida. Y va a ser un evento bilingüe, como comentaba Alfredo, y finalmente acabaremos con una pequeña performance. Y bueno, pues queremos que sea muy dinámico, que participéis, haremos pequeñas presentaciones de unos 10 minutos, luego con preguntas, para que preguntéis a los socios. Y sin más, doy paso a la primera presentación, que es además el coordinador del proyecto, que es Athena Research, y que se ocupan un archivo potenciado con realidad expandida e inteligencia artificial. Basilis Kausoros, el coordinador y director del departamento.
So I'll switch to English. I don't speak Spanish. I understand some of the things. I would like to welcome. I'm a researcher in Athena Research Center in Athens, Greece. We work on speech and language processing, all these nice AI tools that you see nowadays, and we are trying to apply these technologies along with 3D, virtual reality, and all these nice technologies on archives, but also on performing arts that involves dance and theater. I would like to thank you for being here, to welcome you, and the theme is very international. We learn from each other, and we learn also from audience like you. So this interaction for us is very important because we get feedback from our work, and we try to incorporate that and improve our work. So I think we'll have a nice program demonstrating our work, and we'll be here to discuss with you any things that you'd like. So thank you. What is the next one? Maximus. So I will present Maximus. He will be giving us the first showcase.
Thank you, Vasilis. Well, actually, we had a review meeting a bit earlier on, so we are kind of off balance here. I will try to gather my thoughts. Well, we do have some videos to show you. We don't want to tire you. I'm just gonna tell you that what we are doing, we are on the speech and audio processing in general. So imagine that you're a spectator, you want to watch, let's say, a theatrical movie or a dance performance, and you also want to have some augmented experiences. And I will talk about only the audio. For example, you want to know, you listen to someone speaking, but it happens that it's not the language that you're speaking, so you want to have some kind of a translation. Or you want to search for specific content regarding the video. So for example, for the audio. So imagine, for example, that you want to find a theatrical play or a dance performance that has, for example, fast-paced music, or some performance or some theatrical play that it resolves in a happy ending, or it has some angry outburst. We are trying to somehow get this semantic information from the audio. So we are tracking voice, speech, we are tracking music, we are also tracking some other events that might happen, and we try to make some sense out of it. I don't want to tire you with details. This is the very broad overview of what we are doing. Something that might be of interest to some members of the audience would be that we are initially using some existing technologies. So we are all witnessing this kind of AI revolution that's going on. And indeed, there are many valuable models, AI models, that do the things that we aim for. So we use them as they are because we don't have the data, nor the infrastructure or the resources to train such models. so we're taking things as they are, we employ them in a way that they give the information that we need for the use cases that we will describe. Actually, I will specifically focus on use case 1, as we call it, which is like browsing the archives. So, in other use cases, you might be sitting within a virtual theater that you are watching in real time, a theatrical play going on or a dance performance. In the first use case, you're not sitting inside the theater, you're just having some content on your browser. So you're visiting a web page, you have the chance to see several theatrical or dance performances within an archive. So imagine this is the archive. We're loading the archive. You can see that there are some now, a very restricted, very few dance performances, theatrical plays. You can click on it. You can see some, characteristics about the credits, some articles regarding this specific theatrical play, which happens to be. But we also give the opportunity to have some overview regarding, for example, speech and language. So we don't need to say that here you need to feel negative, neutral, and disapproval, for example. This is just a tool to help you search for something that you might remember had something there, or so these are just tools for searching the archive more efficiently. Okay, so I think that's more or less it. I don't know if you want any more details. I'll be happy to answer any questions now or later during the discussion, possibly. Are we okay? Do you want me to say something more? Okay.
So, hello everybody. I am from Saint-Étienne in France, and with Alain and some colleagues, we are working on the video. So exactly what Maximo explained, but we are analyzing the image and video without audio. And the idea is the same, so to extract a lot of semantic information, so some important information about what we can see here. So the bounding box you have seen in the video, we are extracting this. So this is one demo. This is a tool we have developed in Saint-Étienne. So we can show the bounding boxes. So we have automatically, of course, we just download the video and automatically extracts the people there, tracking them. So we have a number for each box, and we are able to say how much time they are in this video and how they move and so on. So this is the bounding box. For the motion, we have the pose, which there. So we are extracting the joint of the human body and analyzing how fast they move, how they move, and then we can store that in memory and have some information about the motion at this moment in the video for each people in the video. We can also extract the depth information. So these are false color. The red is very close for the camera, and black blue is. We can also extract the 3D body. So as you can see here, we just match one mesh, 3D mesh, which is stored somewhere, and we try to match to each people in every image. And then we have 3D motion for each people dancing here. And finally the mask, so segmentation mask, we are able to segment each people there and showing how which space they fit in the 3D room. Then I can stop maybe here, and we can, or maybe not here, because I'm looking for some motion, 3D motion. I can click here, double click, and then I should see as the 3D shape of this guy at this moment, which was this. I can have this shape as well. And okay, for all the people dancing, at each moment I can click and see the 3D position of this guy at this moment and analyze the 3D motion. We are extracting as well the emotion, which is written here, so no emotion for her, no emotion right now. So this feature is working well when we can see the face in front of the camera and with a zoom. There we don't have enough pixel for this. What can I show? Oh, we are analyzing as well the lighting environment. I can there I have estimate the light, and there we will see the room in 3D. Maybe I can show a bit more. Okay, the room is 3D with the estimated light in 3D. So this is the ground, and from the algorithm we have trained here, it seems that the light are coming from here in this direction, and we have this number of lights. And we are able then to maybe put some light off and so on. So we are still working on this interface, but after that we will be able to put the 3D mesh of the performers and remove the scene and change the light maybe and see some explanation about that. Okay, I think it's all what we can show now from our side. So thank you, and let's see the next one.
Maybe first we can introduce FITE and Forum Danza, that they are working also on the archives, and maybe we can comment something or on the nature of this archive. Well, or just to explain that this we are as part of this project. You know, this is the documentation part, and we are documenting with these technologies several performances that form. They are part of the archives of FITE Festival in Portugal and Forum Danza. And well, as you see, this is like an enhanced way of accessing to a performance, of documenting. You can access the postures, the lighting, like many amazing features that they are extracting with their computer vision technologies, and Athena with their language analysis technologies. And now comes Science from Cyprus, and they are handling 2 use cases. One use case deals with remote performance, which we'll explain now, and the other use case deals with a remote rehearsal, or co-creation. Okay, so Kleanthis Nikolaos and Panayotis.
Yes, thank you, Pablo. So, yeah, we are from Science. I'm Kleanthis, and together with my colleague Panayotis and Mercé, we are from Cyprus. It kind of feels like home these few days here, Pablo. I don't know, it's so hot these last days, so I feel very comfortable. You come from there. Okay, so our role in, first of all, thank you very much for being here, and our role in this project is a little bit more technical. And as Pablo mentioned, we try to kind of blend and integrate the work that is being done by the consortium, by all the partners, and kind of demonstrate this work of the project through use cases. This is the way that the project wants to showcase, in a way, what can be done. And we are working on specifically 2 use cases with extended reality technologies, and more specifically with VR technologies. And one of which is we will be having a live performance in Colosseum in Portugal. And the objective there is to have the performance and see how can we broadcast and stream that performance in a virtual reality space for people to view it outside of the theater, not only for the ones that will be present physically within the theater, but also for people outside the theater. Now, if it's going to be a copy of the performance or getting the data of the performance and projecting something different, that's something that we will jointly design with the creative and artistic partners. But the technical challenge is to be able to capture data from a live performance and use this data within a virtual space. Now, the second use case that we are kind of leading in this project has to do with a kind of similar but slightly different concept, being that we call it the remote rehearsal use case. And the idea is that we can have two performers, either two dancers or two actors from two different remote locations, not being present in the same physical space. One could be here and the other could be in Cyprus. And the idea is that they meet and collaborate in a joint virtual space. So again, we need to capture data of motion, synchronize everything and project them and provide the means for them to interact and perform seamlessly, if possible, in a joint virtual space. For this use case, we try to have a dance and a theatrical performance. Now, in order to do that, there are several layers and stages and phases, which I think now Panayotis can explain a little bit better.
So, hi everyone, my name is Panayotis. I'm gonna just show two things, not many things, because obviously we're gonna bore you if we go into all the details. One of the things that I'm gonna show you is how we do avatars. And avatars basically is the representation of the performer in the virtual space. Okay, so in this project we can do many things. One of these is creating realistic avatars, but also for some cases we might want to have different representations of people. So one way of doing avatars is basically what we can do is we can get pictures of somebody. We can create a 3D model of their face using modern computer vision technologies, basically photogrammetry, and then you can use that to apply it onto a, I think the internet is a bit slow, yeah, and apply that into an avatar. And we can get this to an extreme. So this is me back when I was very tired last year. It's basically, not me, I would say it's a digital sibling, not a digital twin of myself. It's kind of me, but a little bit weird. But this is in real time, and we can integrate that into a virtual play. And so you can actually animate a performer by just using an iPhone. And then you can have these avatars of different morphologies, and you can animate them using motion capture data. And what you see here is basically a set of different avatars that are being animated by Muriel. Where is Muriel? Hello. Hello. With that red, I should have seen you. Just to show you a bit more the bodies, this is more or less what you can get. And again, this is in real time, and you can stream it in a VR environment. But we understand that performers don't necessarily need a precise representation of themselves, so we can have different versions of avatars being driven by the performers. And actually, people that know Muriel, I think they understood immediately that this was again the same performer, which is kind of an interesting fact. And we're doing several works with artists to get their opinion on the matter. Now, I'm not just going to show all of this stuff. I'm just going to show the other video now. It's this one here. So this is a video, maybe you want also to, yeah. So what we're going to show you now is what Cleanthis described. It's a video we prepared that shows the whole process and how we stream performances in VR. Where is the mouse? Okay. Okay. So there should be video, audio, but that's okay. So what you see here is a tool that the team at Science created, which basically allows you to create your own environment in an easy way, so that then you can use that as your virtual stage. And what you see here is a couple of researchers in the center, and Cleanthis here doing the director thing with the mustache. And myself pretending to be like a very serious performer here. But basically what you see is we utilize several motion capture technologies, including optical systems, inertia-based systems like this Rococo system that is one of the most affordable for artists, actually, and VR. And actually, we can support different technologies. What we're going to be doing here is basically we're going to be capturing the motion of these performers, and we're going to be streaming their performances. So this is in Cyprus, right? So what we did is we are streaming their data in Germany in a server, and that server can then stream the data to any device that you have. It can stream it on a web browser, it can stream it on your mobile device, it can stream it on a VR headset. And depending on the device that you use, you are going to have a different experience. And you can actually use that to either, this is Mercé. Hi, Mercé. Mercé is from Spain, so we have a Spanish blood in Cyprus. So you can actually use this to get a different perception of the performance in real time, but also you can use this offline when we're archiving this performance for a different, you might want to have to experience the performance from the eyes of one of the performers. So it's an interesting way of doing that. So the interesting thing is that this allows people to experience this from any device in a different way that you could do from a video, right? So yeah, that's it more or less. I don't know if you want to add anything more.
Yes, just to say that this is the technological side that we are working on. So this are the more technical stuff that are being developed and are being, the research is done on them. But the project has also the artistic side that looks into how these technologies can be used and how they can be meaningful in the setting of the performing arts. So how can we use XR technology in order to build a performance or to do a rehearsal or to interact in another way, and how we build the knowledge of the archives. So I think it is important that people that represent the cultural institutions of the project also have a say and explain how you participate and how you see the application of these technologies, because there are actually many questions coming up.
I just wanted to add that I forgot to mention something very important. We're not going to be only capturing the motion. We're going to be capturing also audio. We're going to be capturing lights and facial expressions and everything. So it's not just going to be the motion of somebody. We're going to try to replicate as much as possible the experience, but also allow the artist to have a different experience in the VR setting, but also the viewers. So it's not just motion, right? So I don't know if you have any questions, or we can move on to the...
So thank you, Elena. To say something maybe about this experiment with science that we did at AHK ID Lab. So we wanted to do a double skin, double mind workshop, which is a movement practice developed by Emio Greco and Peter Sees-Holten. So it's a knowledge transfer situation in virtual space with two people in different locations. So we just did the first experiment a year ago, I think, and I was in Amsterdam, and Eva, right? Eva was in Cyprus, and we tried a first knowledge transmission idea, and we were talking today about the problems of not sensing a physical presence, of that almost disembodied, the fascination of the avatar, but also the soullessness of an avatar, and how important that sense of presence is in knowledge transmission in dance. So it's a kind of provocative relation. So we say it's not possible, and you try to develop more. So it's a kind of, we try to tease each other to bring to a situation which we don't know yet where we will end up, but that's a bit a confrontation and a challenge that we are happy to deal with, or we can dialogue about it in a way that is constructive, I think, or hopefully. Right.
And I work at ID Lab, which is an experimental space within the Academy of Theatre and Dance. So we hold 16 schools, theatre and dance, and we try to give the students a playground to use the tools. So we have a kind of unpack parties so that they can fantasize what they can do with them, with the tools. So they start, it's about storytelling as well. What would you imagine to create of a kind of performance? So to give one example of the mime school, which is between acting and moving and dancing, a student got very impressed by the meta-humans and using rococo suits to pre-create an older woman, herself projected as being aged, very old, reviewing her own life, and that she created an installation with a transparent video projection that you can look through as a spectator. And she was behind, let's say, the transparent screen, and you had a huge meta-human of an older woman reflecting on her own life. So and the sound was also spatial. Let's say Pablo is also using spatial audio. We do also spatial audio. So the texture of the voice of an older woman while watching a young performer, meanwhile, it was very impressive. So if you give students tools just to start play around with it, they fantasize about it. So hopefully in the end of the project, we might, let's say, upscale those projects and present it in Porto as well. So we have several examples and fantasize what we can do with the tools, thinking about an extended life of a performance, or two locations bringing together, so a dialogue between two actors, one in the synagogue of Porto and one of the Portuguese synagogue in Amsterdam. Bring them together, get into a kind of conversation, while you being able to either watch both and make your own choices between the dispute of two actors or whatever. So it generates energy, especially when I will show your video, because it's now really into a phase that it's the next step. So I'm really looking for the next coming 18 months. So please fill us in when your fantasies start moving. I would like to hear them as well.
Bueno, ¿alguna pregunta? I have some questions. I'm seeing here like a lot of people, very interesting people that we would like to know their opinion. Like, for example, I see Ana Catarina Roman, amazing dancer, and also with working with Foresight, setting up ballets. So I would like to know, what do you think of, I mean, we saw two of the goals of the project, the the documentation and the remote performance. So I don't know, maybe you can say something because you are always very inspiring and insightful.
Hi. Well, I hope I understood well, like how part of this project should be to try to keep records of a performance. Am I right with that? Like try to keep records in order to recreate this performance at another time. That's a part of that, yeah? Good, because that's something that I work with, you know, like when you reteach people again a performance, you know, and I have been with the tools that exist without going into such a, you know, sophisticated things, you know, but many years ago, just what I did is in a performance with 12 people, let's say, or 11 people, that you record each one of this person or make interviews with each one of these persons, you know. But yes, I often think what will be a better way of recording these performances in order to recreate that piece in another company, to other people at another time, you know? And it's not a simple, of course, it's not just a simple put the camera there and record the performance. That is really not a complete thing. So I would think that these tools would help to, to have a better registering, I don't know if that word exists, registering of the different people. Even like, if I understood that well, they are like depersonalized in a way, no? Some of these avatar was like a white thing. So that because sometimes that's also a problem, that you want to reproduce the performance, but you don't want the performance to copy the others. Yeah, or I try, well, whatever I can know by heart, I try to teach it from me to the person, but of course it's me, you know? They maybe copy me, I don't know. Yeah, some parts, yeah. But I find when people just learn from videos and look at a specific person only, they might copy that. So that's, you have to kind of complete this information with other things. So at the point I interview each person so they can tell me what is their thoughts or their problems or what do they count in the music or what do they do, you know, so that you can transmit that. That's like being, you know, what first I used to say, you are like a human archive in a way, you know, you try and learn everything you can and substitute all these tools, or more, I would say all these tools try to substitute the human mind or whatever talent somebody might have to do that, you know. But that, of course, if a lot of time go by, you forget. You also forget things, you know. So I think I will kind of find, in a way, tools to be able to record something and reset it in another place. And also what he was saying, in a way, then also, because when you play with things is when you can start to be creative. It doesn't work just like that, you know. You have to have those things and say, okay, what could I do with that, you know? And at some point, I thought of, I want to do a performance with myself as a partner, you know? Something like that, like you don't have dancers, so, well, maybe I have to create 3 different characters for myself that can interact with each other in lifetime, you know? I don't know, that's something like I will try to approach with some of those tools, if that, would that work, something like that? Okay.
Well, I was thinking that any particular or any different kind of technology you are using has a particular like mood or essence, no, or aesthetical peculiarities, no. Through this work, have you find or what inspirations have came to you all that part or came from the particular technologies you have been using? O sea, like, so what inspirations have came to you based on the technology you are using?
What you said, I think, is a very interesting point that deals also with all the use cases, but also, for example, with the use case we are working on, no? And all the components, which is the AI toolbox. Because, for example, normally, in our case, when we develop a technology, we use a technology, we try to create it with Daniel. Daniel is a software artist, no? And so you have an idea, you have a vision, no? You have a problem, because if you don't have a problem, you don't wake up, no? You stay everything in your room, you do nothing, no? But of course, we have to do things, no? We don't know why, but you have to push forward. So you have this vision, this idea, and you create a technology that that solves this problem, no? Like, for example, this problem could be, for example, yesterday we performed a piece, it's embodied machine, re-embodied machine. So we had some problems, no? One of the problems was how to take a beam of light from a robotic light and illuminate yourself, no? For example, inspired on a verse of T.S. Eliot, that is looking in the heart of light, no? So this, initially, supposedly, you should have a need, no? To go, to push into this direction of the technology, no? And I think now we have with the AI, I was discussing this with Daniel, no? The super powerful AI models, no? That they give you the things, no? They provide you images, no? They provide you like off-the-shelf results, no? And this is true what you say, no? They have like a flair, the technologies, they have sometimes even an aesthetic, no? Sometimes they can constrain, they can put you in a position, no? So this is one of the, I think, one of the issues we are discussing in this project with Susan, for example, no? What is the presence? What remains of the presence of a dancer, no? In the virtual world, of the smell, intensity, of the, I don't know, something is there and probably it has a magnetic interference, no? So yes, this is something that we are questioning in the project. Like, for example, science, maybe you can say something, because they are testing a lot of technologies to see which is more optimal, no, according to the needs.
Actually, Pablo, what I want to say is something that it was a comment that we had today also with the reviewers, and it was exactly on this point. I mean, the vision and the idea we had at the beginning, us coming from the more technical and technology side, was to develop tools, see how can we help and give solutions possibly to, for instance, the use cases. Somebody wants to experience and see a performance, but they cannot be present in the physical space. How can we recreate that and give the feeling of a person being immersed in that performance or the rehearsal? But then questions and concerns and challenges and feelings of something is not really right come in the surface and in this discussion. And it's obviously we cannot reach the level that you can have in reality. But following this cycle of discussions, we kind of came up with other ideas and new concepts, and the artistic partners were starting to think of these tools and these technologies not as intended. We will do that, we will try and do the best we can do, but also as a new form of art. How can I use the technology to create something different? Not to recreate the feelings and the emotions I have when I'm doing the performance, but to use it to create a new form of art. So this is what I think.
But what is true is that we need to know, to have a knowledge of the technology. Otherwise, you become the technology, which is always some of the dangers, no? But we all have experienced this, no? If you use technology in a careless way, no? You become the technology, no? Somehow. Okay, so someone else, alguno más, ¿queremos comentar algo? O pasamos, maybe we will present another part of the project, which is actually the part Instituto Stokos, our company, is developing. We are on the technical side of the project, but we are also artistic partners. We create productions, but we develop a specific technology for our performances. And in Premier Project, we are developing a toolbox. It's called the AI Toolbox, Artificial Intelligence Toolbox. And it's an array of components that support artistic creation. And they have like several parts. They are based on movement analysis. So with these tools, we can use a combination of sensors, maybe very expensive sensors, but also cheap and low-scale sensors that we can put on our body and extract information. We can also process this information, use this information to control media, to control light, to affect the sound, to create images that represent the body, but maybe not in a realistic way. And so Daniel, here is Daniel Bisik, is the chief developer Instituto Stokos. And he's going to show some of the applications. Some of these tools are machine learning based. This is now the very strong topic, what we call artificial intelligence. And maybe you can start maybe showing some of the movement synthesis, well, of the components.
Okay, hello everybody. My name is Daniel. I have a background originally in natural sciences, but I very soon became interested in sort of synthetic forms of natural sciences, where you have some form of capability to shape natural principles, to exploit natural principles, shape natural principles, and what kind of aesthetic possibilities come out of this approach. And at some point I learned that that's what generative artists do. So when they create art, they don't paint a painting or they don't play an instrument, but they try to figure out some principles, some processes that work on their own and that create, while the processes develop, that create a possibly aesthetic result that captures both some of the characteristics of the process, like of an algorithm, but also some of the characteristics that you had in your mind as an artist when developing these processes. And with the advent of machine learning, especially generative versions of machine learning, this field has sort of exploded by now. Before it has been a very small niche of certain artists working with technology and these algorithms. And now it has become a little bit mainstream and attractive for this reason, and it's not always good if something becomes mainstream and is only attractive because of this. But we think it's a good moment to reintroduce some ideas, how you want to work with generative methods, what kind of opportunities, what kind of problems you have when working with generative methods, but from the point of view of an artist really understanding the tools they're working with. So instead of just having a huge model and it gives you back pictures and more pictures and more pictures, and you can choose the pictures you like, but you can't really modify fundamentally the way that this thing produces pictures, we focus on models that you can really rip them apart, you can resolder kind of these models, and also see what comes out when you work in that manner.
Just a sentence, just because in art also, nothing is more expensive than what you get for free. So you take all these things just like that, so it's better to, very interesting what Daniel said, to really go into that.
Go into the yeah, and it costs time, of course, and not everybody is happy to invest time into things they don't know whether it will become useful at some point for them. But the idea of the AI toolbox is to give kind of a starting point. some simple machine learning models you can play with, you can modify. If you know a little bit about programming, you can modify these models. You can feed these models your own so-called training data, which is examples the model should learn. And hopefully some artists will become fascinated by that and take off with this approach. So what I will show now is sort of a live demo of some of these models. The two models I will be showing, they are models that produce movement. So they have been trained on movements, mainly of Muriel, so motion capture recordings of Muriel, and the model is then tasked with recreating these movements in some way. And the first model, the thing that you see now, is what I call a movement transformation model, or that's the application, where you can combine different types of movement recordings and blend between them to create sort of in-between movements. But you cannot only blend, you can also extrapolate. You can move away from the original movements and create hopefully novel, hopefully interesting, hopefully weird movements as well. So one of the things that applies to us as dance company, but it also applies from interviews we found out to other artists, that they are not necessarily interested to have some technology reproducing movement that you could as well do on your own. So maybe it's more interesting to have technology that gives you movement offers that you didn't think of, that are inspiring, that might challenge you, that might not be human possible to do, but it's a good starting point to develop your own choreography again. So what this thing does at the moment, it takes, let me find this thing. It takes two movement recordings of Muriel, and these are recordings of Muriel performing a certain movement principle. For instance, a certain movement quality, a certain way of moving. And one of these recordings shows the movement quality fluidity, very smooth movements, and the other one shows the movement quality staccato, which is sort of very sudden and very straight movements. And the model has now these two sequences, and what it does, it compresses these sequences. It sounds now very technical, but that's in the end the interesting part of the model. It compresses these sequences in a very small representation. This representation has much fewer values than the original movement recording had, and then it tries from this compressed representation to recreate the original movement. And what is interesting about this compression is not that you need less data, it's that the model has to learn something about fundamental movement principles in order to do this compression. So it needs to understand a little bit what are humanly plausible movements. It also needs to understand a bit what is the stylistic characteristics of Muriel. And then with this understanding, in a very abstract sense of course, it can throw a lot of information away and still reproduce the original movement. So you have sort of the model's understanding is compressed into this small representation of movement. And you can play around with this representation. So you can change how the values in this representation and see what kind of movements you get back from the model. And in the simplest case, what you can do, so these 32 sliders, each slider represents one value in this representation. So there's an arbitrary decision that this should be 32 values. And if I change these values from 0 to 1, I'm sort of now morphing from the first representation of the first movement, which is the fluidity movement, to the second representation of the second movement, which is the staccato representation, and I get in-between movement qualities. So 1 would be fully staccato, and 0 would be fully fluidity. But I can also move away from 0 to 1. I can go negative. Yeah, that's the thing. So the that could do it, okay. And the more you move away from this 0 to 1, the more you move away from the original movements. So you enter sort of kind of unexplored movement territory, which could potentially be interesting. And you can do that for all the 32 values at the same time, like now. Or you can do it for one value at a time. So you are sort of choreographing in a very weird way what this thing, this skeleton thing is doing. And you choreograph by changing the model's representation. You don't know what the model's representation means. This is only something the model figured out. But you can explore how you could choreograph through this very intransparent mechanism new movements. So it's a very exploratory and very experimental approach that allows you to go from pure imitation to something totally else in a very smooth manner. So that's one thing I wanted to show. And the other thing I would like to show is a model for movement continuation. So what this model does, it takes a motion capture recording, a second or so snippet, and it predicts how this movement should continue in the future. And it predicts one pose at a time. So it gets this motion capture recording and predicts the next pose. Then it extends the movement by this next pose, and then predicts again the next pose. And it does this thousands of times, so you get a continuation of a movement that has as a starting point this original movement. And it might, over time, since it moves further and further away from the starting movement, it might deviate from the original movement. So if I start this and look for my other control thing, which is here. So I can choose again which motion capture recording I want to use to get this starting motion from. In this case, I chose the one I know that works well. So I chose the first sequence, and I chose the pose that starts within the sequence at position 6,300, which means pose 6,300 within this whole recording. And so after 1 second, all you see is movement predicted by the model. So this is no longer movement directly recorded, but what the model thinks how this movement could continue. Yeah, and if you know these movements, these motion capture recordings, then you will recognize certain elements that have been there, not exactly in this form, but at least they are reminiscent of the original material. And what often happens after a while, the model becomes kind of tired, or it settles into a loop. So it finds one movement that can easily connect to itself again, and then it just goes on. It finds of the movement minimum.
Exactly, it finds the sense for a movement to connect. No? It's a little bit like, for example, we see a friend in the street, we raise the hand, and he doesn't answer, and then, okay, we have the hand, and we say, okay, I take a taxi. So it's just to give a meaning to this movement, no? So it's a kind of a secondary principle of reality, no? Well, and maybe you can visualization.
I show two more things. So the AI toolbox consists of multiple programs. So each program runs on its own. Some of the programs are models like this, other programs are other things. And the idea is that you can mix and match these. It's like Lego blocks. So you have a different set of programs, and you want to combine them, and you can combine them since these programs pass information from to each other. So you can use something like this for creating movement, and then have another module from the AI toolbox to analyze certain movement descriptors in this movement. So I have what we have here, and that's something that Pablo works intensively with when then finally sonifying the movement. We have a tool that's called movement analysis. That's this thingy. I briefly start this thing again because the movement continuation is becoming boring. So, and here you have several options, what kind of mathematical information you want to extract from movement. So what you get for free is the positions and the rotations of the joints. That's what defines the movement itself, how it has been recorded, and how it is being recreated by the model. But maybe you are more interested in the velocity or the acceleration of the movement. So you could look for this kind of information, which is still fairly basic, just physical quantities. Or you could look at higher level movement principles, and what this tool at the moment integrates is so-called Laban effort factors. Let's start from the beginning, because then I think this effort factor will be highest. Yep. So, for instance, this is Laban. Rudolf Laban has been a choreographer who has done tremendous work for formalizing dance with the purpose for, among others, to be able to notate dance. There is no commonly accepted notation for dance still nowadays. And the Laban effort factors are descriptors about expressive characteristics of movement. And there are 4 effort factors. I mean, I'm not a choreographer, not dancer, so my explanations will be a bit primitive now. But so there is weight effort, which describes sort of the heaviness or lightness of movement. So each of these effort factors has 2 polarities. It's either one extreme or the other extreme or something in between. So in case of weight effort, it would be how heavy or how light your movement is. There is time effort, which describes how sudden or how continuous your movement is. There is space effort, which describes how direct or indirect your movement is. And there is flow effort, which describes how bounded, so sort of hitting an individual object, versus unbounded your movement is. Oh yeah, I'm running out of time, okay. Yeah, and then, so this is one element you can sort of just combine with either live motion capture, so analyzing the movements of a live performing human dancer, or analyzing movement created by an avatar, also by a machine learning thing. And then we also are super interested in the end to translate the movement again into something that can be perceived on stage, or that you can work with as media material. And so Pablo is working heavily on sonifying movements, translating movement into sound, and I'm working on translating movement into image. And we are both not interested in creating like realistic avatars for replicating the appearance of existing dancers or actors, but we are more interested in coming up with something that looks very different, that draws the attention. You don't replicate what you could do with human dancers on stage, you try to do something that only digital technology offers to you. So to capture certain elements of movement, but ignore, for instance, the appearance of the shape. So the shape is totally independent, but the movement is still perceivable through the shape. And maybe that draws the attention of the audience more towards the movement itself, rather than just looking at the human body. So this is one method for visualizing this skeleton. And the technique is called ray marching. You don't need to know what it is. What is interesting about ray marching is that you can very easily morph from one visualization into another visualization. So something like this still looks a little bit like a human body, but I can easily go to something that looks totally different. So, for instance, I just have to remember which settings I want to show. No. Here, okay. So I can go, for instance, to this shape, which I don't know, looks more like a jellyfish. I give it again a little bit of kick, the model, so you see at least some movement. And the next thing I can also go, for instance, to, again, a totally different shape. Yeah, so the human body is replaced by these very amorphous shapes, but still all the elements of these amorphous shapes are directly controlled in the rotation from the motion that is coming from a model or from a real live human dancer. Yep. Okay.
Thank you very much, Danny. So you see, we start from the movement and then we can turn it into another modalities. No? For example, in the performance we did yesterday, there was a strong focus on the sonification. There was no video, there was light. The dancer with the dance, the movement was reconstructed in light, in lasers. And now we will do a small performance, a demonstration of how to turn this movement, but not the synthetic movement, but the real movement of two amazing dancers, into sound, okay? So I don't know, before this performance, there is some questions about this presentation. Somebody wants to say something? Questions? Okay, so, yes, here we have Arnau Pérez de la Fuente. It's an amazing dancer with a focus, well, maybe you can say it better. Street dance, freestyle, or, well, anything. You have your own. Contemporary dancer, yes, yes, yes. Christian Rubio, which is a flamenco dancer. And so we inspired in the dance battles, no? Arnau, how do you call batallas, no? How are they called? These batallas, no? Batallas entre bailarines contemporáneos, freestyle. We are going to present the first time, the first sonification battle of history. Like it's a dance battle, but in which the dancer transforms. It's a friendly battle. It's a friendly battle, yes. So esto es como picarse, ¿no? Muchas disciplinas artísticas está este pique. En el flamenco, en el jazz, en el hip hop, ¿no? Y al final, hacer las cosas bien, to do something good, is to do it better than someone else in the end, no? No? It's, so there's always this competition, no? The agon that the Greeks call, no? The agon, this competition that is part of, in science also, no? There is always this debates, well, it's part of the rhetoric also, the origins of, el origen de la retórica también tiene que ver con cómo demostrar un argumento. So we're going to do it through sound and through movement, no? And since ancient times, humans wanted to transform their movement into sound, no? Now we know that in the caves, in the Paleolithic caves, the most beautiful paintings, they are placed in the most resonant spaces. So this means that our ancestors wanted to work with the tools in resonant spaces so they could transform their movement into sound, okay? So, inspired in that, so we are going to see some of orchestrations with this data that Danny is playing, how we can connect rotations, fluidity, the flow, connected to some parameters, and can we perceive movement through sound, okay? So, I don't say anything because it's better that I don't speak more. I'm doing. So.
Hola, sí. Bueno, muchas gracias a todos y a todas. Tenemos aquí unos minutitos para hacer un encuentro más informal en caso que queráis conocer más a fondo el trabajo de algunos de los partners internacionales. También es un espacio, queremos que esté abierto a la red ACTS para los proyectos que tenéis, si hace falta hacer divulgación, encontrar estos espacios de encuentro entre instituciones académicas y científicas e instituciones culturales. Así que estamos también abiertas a vuestras propuestas y al diálogo con la comunidad. Muchas gracias a todas por la participación.